There seems to be some type of intense infatuation with being God, or like being a God. It's definitely a school of thought that I fell into at a certain point in time in my life when I was a lot younger and a lot more arrogant, to where I was like, you know what? I am my own God. Yes, I am my own God, blah, blah, blah. And there's a semblance of truth in the statement within itself, but it's not as black and white as that. It's not as I am a God as that. It's really not the case. The reality is God exists within you and you exist within God. That's the reality. The same way God exists within a worm, and God exists within a plant, and God exists within a tree, and God exists within a sloth, and God exists within a saber-toothed tiger. You know what I mean? It's more of a life force energy. It's more of an energy itself that is within all things. But us as humans, we have some form of an advanced sense of comprehension towards it all. Or at least that we understand. Because realistically, we're not the only animal with intelligence. That's documented and that's known. That's the first thing. We're not the first animal with intelligence. We're not the first animal that could comprehend its own existence. We're not the first animal that can get out of mazes and traps and figure things out and figure out little contraptions. We're not. Because at the end of the day, we are still human. Humans are not capable of being God because we still are human. We have human qualities. We have human faults. It's more common in this new age of spirituality to where you kind of denounce religion entirely, or you ostracize religion and you claim yourself as a god. These religious texts are texts. Whether you want to look at them as moral stories or the absolute truth, within them are things that you can use to learn to elevate yourself as a human being and to be a better person. That's non-negotiable. And if you argue against it, then you actually haven't read any of these texts. Now, what an individual does when they come across this text and how they use it is a completely different story within itself. But it can't just be Christianity bad, Bible bad, no. Quran bad, Muslim bad, no. I am God. It literally just can't be like that, because the texts within itself are the things that will basically give you the master key to understanding more of yourself to actually reach that godhood that you're seeking. I kind of look at it like a high school popularity group, to where you want to have this niche club of the chosen ones or the gods that have this deep understanding of the world, and nobody else gets it because they're a bot and they're going to be bots. And to me, to be honest with you, it seems counterintuitive to the idea of spirituality and spiritual growth. You come across a person that doesn't understand what you understand. You fancy yourself a god, yet you can't bring yourself to their level to better explain the concept that you're trying to articulate to them in a manner that's digestible for them. You can't level with this individual. There's nothing godlike about that. If you look at Jesus is an incarnation of God. He came to earth, incarnated as Jesus, spread a positive message, had miracles, had disciples. Vishnu, the supreme being in Hinduism, or in one sect of Hinduism, incarnated himself as Krishna. So a god brought itself down to a human level, to have a human experience, to then relate and teach and deal with human beings, right? That's what all these stories are telling you, and whether you look in which text or the other texts, right? Yet you, the individual that fancies yourself a god, come across somebody that you don't deem as walking the right path. You categorize them as a bot and almost antagonize or create this us versus them mentality, to where you're not trying to get them to understand because they're bots and they'll never get it and they should just be stuck there, and you get to ascend because you're a chosen one. and I'm supposed to believe that's divine. When you really sit down and you dissect that school of thought, it doesn't really help many people. It can't, because it's not based on actually trying to help people. It's based on, if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, oh well, because you're a bot, and I'll laugh at you anyway because you're a bot. But that same bot is the reason why your Amazon package came on time. That same bot is the reason why when you went to Chick-fil-A because you wanted a chicken sandwich, you got it. That same bot is the reason why your iPhone screen works. You know what I mean? Everybody that doesn't want to do what you want to do, or walk this certain path, or attain this amount of wealth, or has the same grasp or understanding of this world as you do, you ostracize them. You view them as less than. Yet you would not even be able to do half of what you do without them. If you were a god, you wouldn't need any of that. You wouldn't. You wouldn't need any of them. You wouldn't need any of that. But the reality is we're human. We are but a small, not even toenail of God's potential and power. There's always things outside of your control. There's always variables outside of your control. There are things that you cannot manipulate within this world. No matter how far you advance, you could advance very far to the point where you do things that you think only an X-Men can do, or only Spider-Man can do, or something of that nature, where you're doing things that are extraordinary, superhuman. We've seen them. And even beyond that, there's more that exists. There will always be more that exists. But even there's a limit. There's a law that binds us. There's some form of restriction. God lives outside of law. Man cannot live outside of law. You can live outside of governmental law for a decent amount of time. You can't live outside of universal law. Therefore, you are not God. You can't be. You abide by universal laws. God does not abide by universal laws. God makes universal laws that we abide by, but those laws do not need to exist for him to exist, or for him to operate, or for it to operate, I should say. So therefore, as a human being, it is literally impossible to be God. And in your fixation or idealization of trying to be a God, you end up severely limiting your own human experience due to your own arrogance. There's a multitude of things that you're refusing to see and accept, and there's actually a certain degree of magnetism that you're removing from yourself by walking around with this arrogance and believing you are a god. In walking around that way and having that sense of literal arrogance, because that's what it is, you block a lot of your own blessings. You actually stop yourself from truly observing your environment and truly taking it all in and having that human experience. You're capable of lust, you're capable of greed, you're capable of hatred, you're capable of envy, you're capable of vast amounts of love. You're capable of all of these things at any given moment. They don't go away. You can easily fall into greed. You can easily fall into envy. You can easily fall into hatred. These are not things that once you transcend them, they are not things that disappear from your life. Once you climb higher in terms of your spiritual development, they're not things that go away. They don't go away because they're tied to your very existence. It's the law of polarity. It's always going to be there. You know what I mean? You have one side and another. As above, so below. You have one and the other. There's the negative and the positive. There's always going to be the negative and the positive. You strive towards the positive. Yes, you work towards the positive. But to say that you are the individual that will never delve into the negative, or the individual that can never experience the negative, or can never experience those lower senses of being, or that you have such a vast amount of control over them that you don't have to pay attention because you're a god, is asinine. It's foolish. It doesn't make any sense because it literally still exists within you. So denouncing it does nothing but make you ignorant to it, which actually makes you mess up more, which actually takes you further away from the godhood that you're trying to attain, that you're trying to reach. Accepting the laws and the limitations of the universe and understanding them doesn't necessarily strip you of your power. It actually empowers you. Understanding how to play the game would empower you. You're not the game developer. You're just not. You can't just be like, boop, spawn in something. You can't. You can create something by following the laws, but you can't defy the laws to create something. You can't make something float into the air and it just appear. It doesn't work that way for you. You have to abide by certain laws and principles. But in understanding those laws and principles, you can bend them to your will. But only once you understand them and accept your human limitations, accept your mortality. There's nothing wrong with being a human being. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. We're capable of doing amazing things, and we're capable of doing absolutely terrible, egregious things. But at the end of the day, we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to ascend or descend. We have the ability to go up or down. And you can do both. You could sit down with yourself and meditate on the most egregious, disgusting, terrible things that a human being could ever even conjure up. And you could say, that's me. And then you can also sit down and think of the most positive, influential, humanitarian level work that you can do as a human being. And that is also you. Neither of them aren't you. It's just a choice that you make every day. That's what makes you, you, the choices that you make. That's what makes you the God in you, the thing that's creating that. It's you, but it's not God. You are not God. It's a literal tinge. It's a piece. But I feel like the categorization or the idolization of putting yourself in this box that you claim that you are God is more self-destructive, and it actually builds this false sense of confidence, and it can be easily misconstrued. It's not one of those things that I feel like is necessary to reach higher levels of spiritual enlightenment in terms of claiming yourself as a God. You know, we can look at text and religion from a from a historical standpoint and say that the introduction of these deities and entities is to, I guess, control man in one sense or another. Yes, of course we can look at it that way. But we could also look at it from the landscape of this is a supreme being and this is something that we should strive towards. Okay, this supreme being is loving, it's caring, it has a certain magnetic aura to it. This is something that we should strive for. Regardless of whether it may be accurate, regardless of whether or not it actually happened, what is the positive that you can take from it? The positive that you can take from it is, oh, okay, this is an individual that is walking the right path. This is the individual that is doing the right thing, is living a more positive way. Because at the end of the day, even when you do something negative, even when you do something out of envy or jealousy, you feel it. It's not like the person that does wrong doesn't know that they're doing wrong, or does not feel that they're doing wrong, or does not view the thing that they're doing as wrong. Something in them is misconstrued to where they're like, whatever, they don't care. Something in them is broken to where they might feel numb to it, but they still know right from wrong. You tend to know right from wrong initially. So this is a video that I just really felt was necessary to tackle. It might have been a bit all over the place, so if it was, forgive me for that. But I feel like this is more so a message that a lot more people, especially in my generation, need to hear, because there tends to be this sense of polarity where you go from being powerless and being pushed into a religion at an early age to having a power trip and thinking of yourself as a god, and really hopping from extreme to extreme. And my hope is to give you more of the middle ground, to where you can just clearly think and continue to progress in a healthy manner, you know, without scrutinizing other people.